I thank you very much for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast. So, so many, so many businesses, they invest in tools that never deliver results. So today's guest, Sara Nay, unpacks why leaders skip strategy in favor of technology and how that single mistake quietly derails growth before it ever even begins. Let's talk about it right after this.
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work, an award-winning podcast where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
All right. I thank y'all very much for tuning in. So, our guest today, she's going to challenge the reflex for you to buy the tool instead of clarifying the direction, exposing why so many businesses stay busy and stuck. So, let's figure this part out. So, Sara, I thank you very much for coming on the show. So, if strategy is the foundation, why do so many smart leaders rush past it and jump straight into technology?
It's tempting, to be honest. I get tempting all of the time. In the age of AI, especially, there's just more tools, agents, platforms you can be using. Our competitors are using them. This person said I should be using them. So it's all over the place right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I see is a lot of businesses bringing in solutions, mainly AI at this point, without actually thinking about, what are we trying to accomplish as a business? Who do we have on our team from a people standpoint? What solutions and technology do we need to bring in to up level our team? So they're skipping all of that foundational work and just essentially bringing in tools. And so obviously ChatGPT is one of the most common ones out there, and Claude and the other platforms. But there's a lot of businesses that, are bringing in solutions like ChatGPT, and then they're just starting to use them to crank out generic content that sounds like everyone else, because they haven't really thought about what are we actually trying to accomplish. And the strategy piece as well, like when you take the time, especially from a marketing perspective, because that's the lane I live in, when you take the time to understand, who's your ideal target market and your messaging, and what are some of your stories, and what does your customer journey look like, and what content should you create moving forward, you can then feed all of that into a platform like ChatGPT to then help you with something like content creation a lot more effectively than if you start with the tool and skip all of that stuff on the front end.
So there's a element that you mentioned, and I don't think we put enough value on it right now. It's the people and what their experiences are, how they feel. It's the real human element. And sometimes we don't feel like our story is compelling enough. We don't think that our thoughts are outside the box enough, or two-sided. There's some parts of this human side of us where we are really, really questioning if our message is strong enough. So how do we get over something like that in our marketing and our strategy, especially if AI helps us get through that imposter syndrome so quickly?
Yeah. I think the thing you have to keep in mind if you're struggling with that is people want to buy from people, like period. Yes, they want to trust a company and a brand, but they want to know the people behind that company and brand. And they also want to know the stories of people like them that moved forward with the company, and then had some sort of transformation. And so those are just huge trust components when it comes to marketing. And so if you're, being hesitant and don't want to put your own story out as part of your business, I encourage you that people will be drawn to your story and your wins and your mistakes and your flaws and your authenticity, because that's what people can connect and relate to. And so if you're skipping that human component when it comes to marketing, or really anything in business, people aren't going to be drawn to you as much as they could be. And so that's where, like, when we're thinking about, content creation using a tool like ChatGPT, when you can take some time and document like your story as a leader, let's say,
Hmm.
if you're a leader of a business, and what are some things that you've learned over the years? What are you absolutely passionate about? What makes your story a bit unique? If you can capture all of that stuff, it's then going to make your content actually be unique
Hmm.
versus sounding like the next competitor that would be
Right.
just talking about features or services. And the same thing is true when you can capture the stories of your clients, and where were they before they started working with you? What were some of their hesitations before they started working with you?
Hmm.
Why did they move forward? What does their story look like now? And when you can capture those stories and tell them through your marketing, it's incredibly impactful, because someone is maybe going through your sales process and they have some of the same hesitations as that person did
Hmm.
before them, but they can see that person was there and now they're at where they are today. And so it's I think equally important to capture your own stories within the business of your
Hmm.
team, but also your clients on top of that as well, because again, it just
Mm.
really reinforces trust.
So, right before we started recording, if I recall correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, but I had a crazy coughing moment, right?
Yes. Right at the start.
Right at the start. So, but what I'm getting at is that if that was recorded, if people caught that, that
Yeah.
is what happened, right? But what I'm getting at is that unfortunately, we want to be perfect
Yeah.
to everybody. So how do we get over that idea of perfection, especially in marketing or whatever it is? Because you're saying, hey, keep this human element in it, and that's
Yeah.
again part of the strategy. But it looks like everyone else out there, especially in social media, looks perfect.
Yeah. I think people are getting tired of seeing everything perfect already, though,
Hmm.
because when AI creates images and videos, everything is flawless and people look perfect and there's no mistakes. And then people are missing that like human component to it.
Hmm.
Where I recently was recording a training video for our group and I like completely stumbled over a sentence and I laughed at myself and I said, I'm not going to edit that out because I'm a human and I make
Right.
mistakes and I keep rolling with it. And that's often what I tell people when I'm on podcasts. If I stumble, just keep it in there. It's fine. People make mistakes as long as I don't say anything too crazy.
Right.
But I think people are drawn to that because no one's perfect.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so, then people see me when I'm speaking or presenting or whatever as an authentic human that also makes mistakes. And so I'm much easier to relate to at that point.
Mm.
And so, yes, there's perfect images out there and videos, and people are polished with filters and all of those things. But I think if you can be your true authentic self, people are going to be more drawn to that because
Hmm.
they're starting to already get sick of that overly polished look.
Mm. So I just mentioned a fear, right? That most people have is the idea of not being perfect in someone else's eyes. What are
Yeah.
some other fears have you come across, other industries, individuals, whatever it might be, that we all might need to reconsider when we're talking about our marketing and our strategy?
Yeah. I mean, there's fears all over the place when it
Hmm.
comes to marketing. I think a lot of the fear is just like the unknown of knowing what to actually do and what's actually working. I've been in the small business space for 16 years. I've interacted with thousands of small business owners over those years.
Hmm.
And oftentimes when people are coming to me to talk about, their previous marketing experience, it's we've been burned by this agency,
Hmm.
or we tried to hire in-house and then I had to basically become the CMO and it didn't work, and we don't know what the best solution is for our business. So there's
Hmm.
just so much uncertainty that causes a lot of fear and anxiety around, am I doing the right thing from a marketing perspective?
Hmm.
And I think the answer is always take a step back and answer some strategic business questions first,
Right.
because that should drive your marketing. And so thinking
Mm.
about, what do you want your business to be known for? Where's your current revenue? Where do you want to be in 1 year
Mm.
from in 3 years from now? What's your mission, vision, values? Like, you need that foundational stuff to then say, okay, now that we know this and we know where we're trying to go and
Hmm.
grow to, let's now talk about a marketing plan and strategy that will help us get from point A to point B. And when
Mm.
then you can then map out your marketing plan based on, things like competitive research and talking to your ideal clients and developing your ideal client personas and messaging and customer journey, like then you will have a clearer plan in place, which hopefully will give you more confidence of, yes, you are doing the right things, or you need to shift and evolve a bit more.
So as we talk about strategy, you talking about the customer journey or who is
Hmm.
your ideal or persona that you're
Yeah.
marketing to, whatever it is. How would I get there, especially if I don't know what that really means, Sarah? Because
Yeah.
we hear this all the time and we get confused. What's marketing? What's advertising? What's
Yeah.
branding? Like that, whatever.
Yeah.
And so we really don't know what we should do. So how can we get over that level of anxiety as well?
Yeah. I mean, for marketing, it always should start with who do you serve? Like that
Hmm.
should be the first thing that you should spend a lot of time uncovering and understanding. And not just from a demographic, but also a psychographic of pain points, goals, transformation. Like you need to know all that information to then be able to speak to those people directly. And you can do that by a few different ways. By one of the things we've done for years is actually interviewing ideal clients. And
Mm.
so talking about, their stories and learning about them and why they chose us. Like you should be doing that on a consistent basis. Like,
Hmm.
yes, actually getting on a call with your clients
Hmm.
and asking them these questions, which not enough people do.
Hmm.
But another thing that you can do to help uncover your ideal clients is with permission, record your sales calls,
Mm.
especially if you're doing, somewhat high volume sales calls. And then you can start using things like AI to
Mhm,
start analyzing what are the most common themes, what are the most common concerns, what are the most common objections. And
mhm,
then you can start crafting marketing copy that addresses those things before they get on a call with you. And so it's really important to be having conversations with ideal clients and prospects,
mhm.
capturing those conversations and analyzing those conversations, because
Mm,
that's going to help you more deeply understand who you're working with, who you're targeting, and how to talk to them from a
mm,
marketing and sales perspective. So that's the first piece on the ideal client and the messaging. But then the second piece, we have our version of the customer journey called the marketing hourglass. And
mhm,
so essentially, it's how can people get to know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer your business.
mhm,
And so to get started there, what I would recommend is sit down, have a whiteboard and sticky notes, and start brainstorming, or you can do it online these days if you want. But start brainstorming. What are all the ways that people are getting to know your business today?
mhm,
What are all the ways people are getting to like your business,
mhm,
trust, and go through the whole phase, and then analyze where are gaps. A lot of times when people sit down and do that, they understand they're doing a lot for like the know or the awareness, but then they're
mhm.
just like asking people to buy. And then, like, occasionally they're asking people for referrals,
Right.
or they're just naturally getting them referrals.
Mhm,
But I always talk about if you can really nurture people and have a great experience throughout the whole entire customer journey with you,
mhm,
they're going to turn into repeat clients. They're going to turn
mm,
into referral sources, because they're going to start telling people about this great, unique experience that they had with your company. And that's where true business growth happens, is
mm,
not just getting more people to know about you. That's one piece. It's taking care of the people that are already in your world and
mhm.
keeping them around, and then having them essentially become raving fans of your business.
Um, but there's a key element, Sarah, that I may not. I'm just starting out in my business, and I hear what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
That I need to talk to my clients or my potential clients. But if I talk to them and they tell me the truth, Sarah, I may not want to look in the mirror, like, because sometimes you don't want to deal with what you may not have dealt with already. You
Yeah.
don't like, some people don't like to hear what they're lacking. You get what I
Yeah.
mean? Because
Yeah.
again, we're in this, era, this, society of, hey, everybody is a winner, right?
Yeah.
And so how do I get over that idea or that feeling if once someone turns that mirror to me and tell me, Maurice, you're not the greatest. You need to
Yeah.
figure this out, right?
I mean, I think it's something that you just have to continue to work on as a business owner or a leader if you're putting yourself out there.
Hmm.
It's something that I've had to work on over the years. I used to get really upset, or it like really got to me if like a client or a prospect or someone was like, not as happy as they could be,
Right.
in certain things. And I still care, like I care
Mm,
a lot, but I've also you have to understand that you're not going to please everyone
Right.
out there. All you can do is try your hardest.
Right.
For example, someone the other day booked a sales call with me,
Mhm.
and he ended up canceling the call before. And he was like, I canceled the call because of something I saw online. Do you want me to tell you? And so my immediate reaction was like, hey, who are you? Want to give me some feedback. I don't even know you. And so, but I was like, yes, I do actually want to know, because it's an opportunity for us to grow.
Right.
And if there's something online that I don't know about or that I should know about, and it ended up being like this tiny little nitpicky thing, like a
Okay.
video I had recorded. I said I was the COO instead of the CEO because I had recently moved into that position. So it was like this small little thing that but still, I think, it could have been something that was really, embarrassing or like harsh or, but I opened up his feedback, because if we don't get feedback like that, we're not going to grow and get better. And so I think that's the thing to keep in mind. Like if you're getting feedback, if you're hearing things that aren't the most positive,
Right.
you might react in the moment, but take a step back. No one's trying to hurt your feelings personally. Take a step back and say, okay, what can we do with this information to do better work moving forward?
So I can't be ultra sensitive in that situation.
I mean, you could be, but it's not going to help anyone out.
And so, and in that, sensitivity, we kind of feel pressure, right? And sometimes a lot of us crack underneath of it, and in your situation, you're fortunate, right? You work with your family, right?
Yeah.
But is that not another level of pressure as well? To say, hey, you know what? I don't want to be the reason why my family business, who's been, since I was born, I told you I was going to pull something out the woodwork. But I don't want to be the reason why this works or doesn't work or, successful or fail, whatever it is. But a lot of us, sometimes we have that type of pressure on us, right? That's heavy, and we don't want to fail. And so how do we get over that part, especially when we're thinking about this marketing piece? We don't want to look like a failure to the world. We don't want to look like a failure to our competitors, especially when our competitors, again, everybody's looking perfect online. So how do we change that mentality and make sure that as a leader, we're not putting out that incorrect message, quote unquote?
Yeah. And I mean, as you said, like I've struggled with a lot of self-pressure over the years. I do care a lot about our business and our clients and our growth. And as you said, my dad started the business. He's never put a lot of pressure on me. He's given me freedom and flexibility, which has been great, but it's a lot of self-pressure. And for me, it's, understanding that we really are doing our best work and we really do care and we are making a difference in a lot of people's lives is what I remember when I am feeling that pressure to perform. But I also think that having balance and ways to step away are really important as well. And so for me, I get really wrapped up in work. And when I can see I'm getting like, I feel pressure. I have a lot on my to-do list. Like we have hiking trails behind our house. If I just go out there for like 20 minutes with my dog and no music, no headphones, no sound, I always come back in a better place. And so I think, like obviously saying like, don't put pressure on yourself. That's like almost impossible for some people, including myself. But find ways where if you feel it's starting to build, remind yourself two things, like you are making a great impact on people's lives in certain areas. And then also just like step away and clear your mind and get in quiet space is what helps me.
So with that, do you think that's actually part of your marketing strategy as well? I mean, just walking away, stepping away, because sometimes you have to cleanse yourself in those spaces because you can get caught up in looking at the copy that you need to put out there, whatever it might be, right? So sometimes you need to pull back and understand like, hey, in order for me to put my best foot forward, I need to step away. I need to close my eyes. I need to, drink a Pepsi, drink a milkshake. I don't care what it is, right?
Whatever it is,
So do you think that's a part of that strategy as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. Like if you're working on something from a marketing or business perspective and you're feeling stuck or it's not quite there, like you could just keep working harder, or you could take a step away and clear your mind for a little bit and come back to it later. And so that's the same thing with like working on something like that, but also running a team, sometimes I have
Right.
team challenges, and instead of like reacting in the moment, if I can step away and like process and come back to whatever the situation is, like
Hmm.
oftentimes I can come in with a clearer mind. And so I think that there's a lot that's out there about how we're so connected to
Hmm.
everything, like our phones and
Right.
Slack and email and text messages and everything all the time. That's why personally for me, like going outside and walking with like no technology, like I don't bring my
Hmm.
phone, I don't do anything, like that is really helpful for me, because it's like the one time a day that I don't have devices or my kids around where I can actually clear my mind.
And so I know for myself, when I take that moment, I'm able
Yeah.
to see a color green maybe, or a leaf, or a branch, or whatever it is. I know
Yeah.
from my own marketing ideas, sometimes I get a little more inspiration being able to see something else and getting
Yeah.
totally disconnected from that space. And so that's why I'm saying that I know for myself that is part of my strategy. Sometimes I
Yeah.
need to sit down. Now, granted, I grew up on Transformers, so my ideas, some of my ideas or creativity comes from something as simple as that as well. So
Yeah.
what other strategies do you find yourself, that might be a little off kilter, to take things to another level?
Yeah, I mean, I think those honestly are the main things. Another thing, I
Hmm.
mean, that I do that's not necessarily like off kilter, but I think has helped me in my career is like I'm an avid learner. And I
Hmm.
think in marketing, you need to always be learning.
Hmm.
So I'm always reading like business related books, or listening to them while I'm driving. Like that's been
Hmm.
a big piece of me. And so that
Nice.
really helps me get other people's perspective
Right.
versus just doing what we've always known. John, who's the founder of Duct Tape Marketing, my dad, as well. He has been successful in his career because he's curious.
Hmm.
Like that's his biggest trait. And so one of his biggest traits. And so he reads a lot of like completely random books about like mushrooming.
Hmm.
And he talks about like, okay, what can we learn from this
Right.
industry
Hmm.
and apply it back to the work that we do? So he's always looking like outside of marketing in
Hmm.
different industries, life ways of doing things, and he's looking at how do we bring that stuff back in. So I just think if you can continue to be curious and continue to learn and not
Hmm.
just like stick to what you've always done because that works,
Hmm.
I think that's going to help you in your long-term career as well.
Nice, nice, nice. So I thank you very much for coming on the show. And for
Yeah.
those individuals that are really curious, say, you know what? I really need to talk to Sara. Like, I need to find out
Yeah.
where she is. Where can they find you today?
Yeah. So our website's ducttapemarketing.com. And then also I'm very active on LinkedIn. So my name
Mhm.
again is Sara Nay.
Cool. So Sara, before I let you go, I gotta ask you the question I ask every guest.
Okay.
All right. And think outside the box. There's no right or wrong answer. It's my would you rather question. Now,
Okay.
Sara, would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
I would choose the fork in the road.
And why the fork?
Because I am someone that can never like watch the same movie twice. I can never read the same book twice. I get bored very easily with
Okay.
repetition. And so I'm always looking at, for good or for worse, different paths, different
Okay.
opportunities, different ways of doing things. And so fork in the road.
Nice, nice, nice. And it's interesting that you say that because some people, because of the repetition, they feel safe, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, sometimes that can stymie us in our business. That could stymie, that could stun our growth in our career. So I like that idea, and I appreciate you sharing that with us today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Sure. And I thank y'all very much for listening to That Will Nevr Work podcast. And today, I really would like for you to identify one tool you're using that lacks a clear strategic process or purpose, and write down one strategic decision you've been avoiding and make it happen this week. I thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you all a little bit later.
Thanks for listening. Follow Maurice Chisholm on social media to stay connected and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work. Or will it?